never a wedding. It was a trap. And she walked into it wearing white. 400 guests raised their glasses. None of them knew they were about to witness the most brutal takedown in Atlanta wedding history. The chandelier in the St. Regis Grand Ballroom cast golden light across 400 faces. Crystal glasses filled with champagne, white roses stacked in towers along every table, a 12-piece orchestra playing soft jazz in the corner. Everything was perfect, and Araba Owusu was glowing. She sat at the head table in a custom Vera Wang gown that hugged every curve like it was painted on. Her makeup was flawless. Her smile was wide. Her diamond earrings caught the light every time she turned her head. She looked like a woman who had just married the love of her life. She hadn't. She had just married a bank account. Kofi Mensah sat beside her, tall, calm, his black tuxedo tailored to perfection, his hands folded on the white tablecloth, his face unreadable. To anyone watching, he looked like a proud groom soaking in the happiest night of his life. But Kofi wasn't soaking in anything. He was counting down. The best man stood up. Kwesi Appiah, Kofi's closest friend since medical school. He tapped his glass 3 times, and the room went quiet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kwesi said, "I've known Kofi for 15 years, through residency, through 70-hour weeks, through the days he built his practice from nothing. And in all those years, I have never seen him plan anything as carefully as tonight." The room laughed warmly. Araba squeezed Kofi's hand and smiled at the guests. She had no idea what that sentence actually meant. Kwesi continued. "So before the dancing starts, Kofi asked me to let everyone know that he has prepared something special for his beautiful bride. A short presentation, a love story told in his own way." Araba's eyes lit up. She turned to Kofi. "Baby, you didn't tell me." Kofi looked at her. His expression was soft, almost tender. "I wanted it to be a surprise," he said. And it would be. The lights in the ballroom dimmed slowly. A massive screen lowered from the ceiling behind the head table. Araba adjusted in her seat and smiled wider. She expected a slideshow, maybe a video montage of their relationship set to romantic music, maybe childhood photos. The screen flickered on, and the first image was a text message, Araba's text message. Her smile didn't disappear immediately. It took about 3 seconds. 3 seconds of reading the words on that screen before her entire face collapsed. The message read, "Baby, I can't wait for this to be over. 6 more months, and I'll have access to everything. Then it's me and you forever." He's so stupid he doesn't even check his own accounts, lol. The recipient name at the top of the screen read, Diran. 400 guests went dead silent, and Kofi Mensah didn't move a single muscle. Kofi had fallen hard, and Araba had made sure of it. 11 months before that reception, Kofi Mensah was the kind of man most women would fight over. 38 years old, 6'2", dark skin that glowed with health, a calm, deep voice that made patients feel safe the moment he walked into a room. He was a cardiothoracic surgeon at Emory University Hospital and the founder of Mensah Surgical Associates, his own private practice on Peachtree Road that had grown into one of the most respected cardiac surgery centers in the Southeast. His Buckhead mansion sat on 2 acres of manicured land, 5 bedrooms, a pool that stretched the entire backyard, a 4-car garage holding a black Range Rover, a silver Porsche Cayenne, a classic Mercedes restored from the frame up, and a matte black Tesla Model X. Kofi had everything, except someone to share it with. His mother Nana had been telling him for years. "Kofi, money without family is just paper. Find a good woman. Build something that lasts." And then Araba appeared. He met her at a charity gala hosted by the Atlanta Medical Association. She walked in wearing a deep emerald dress that turned every head in the room. Her skin was smooth and rich like dark honey. Her smile was warm. Her laugh was musical. She introduced herself as a marketing consultant for luxury brands. She was charming, intelligent, well-spoken. She asked Kofi about his work with genuine curiosity. She listened when he talked about his patients. She didn't flinch when he described 12-hour surgeries. She didn't check her phone once during their entire conversation. Kofi was captivated. What he didn't know was that Araba had researched him for 3 weeks before that gala. She knew his net worth. She knew his property holdings. She knew he was single. She knew he was looking. And she knew exactly how to become everything he wanted. Their first date was at Marcel in Buckhead. Araba ordered modestly. She insisted on splitting the bill. Kofi refused, and she smiled shyly and thanked him twice. It was calculated to the syllable. Their second date was a walk through Piedmont Park. Araba wore minimal makeup, simple jeans, white sneakers. She talked about her childhood in Ohio, about losing her father young, about working her way through college with no help. Every word was rehearsed. By the fourth date, Kofi was telling Kwesi that he had found the one. Kwesi was cautious. She showed up out of nowhere, bro. Just be careful. You're overthinking it, Kofi said. Not every woman is after something. But Araba was after everything. 2 months into the relationship, she moved into the Buckhead mansion. She filled the closets with clothes Kofi paid for. She redecorated 3 rooms with furniture she charged to his account. She hosted dinners for her friends in his home and introduced him as my king, while privately texting Darren photos of Kofi's bank statements. Darren Blake was Araba's real partner, had been for 6 years. He was 34, tall, flashy, the kind of man who wore designer clothes he couldn't afford and drove a leased BMW he was 2 payments behind on. He had failed at 3 businesses. He had burned through 2 relationships with women who eventually realized he was using them. Araba was different. Araba was a partner. They were a team. The plan was simple. Marry Kofi, get on his accounts, drain what they could over 6 to 12 months, file for divorce citing emotional neglect, take half in the settlement, disappear to Miami with Darren and start fresh. They had done versions of this before, smaller targets, shorter timelines. But Kofi was the jackpot. This is the last one, Araba told Darren on the phone one night while Kofi slept upstairs. After this, we never have to do this again. Darren laughed. That's what you said about the last one. The last one was worth $400,000. This one is worth $14 million. Silence on the line. Then Darren's voice, low and hungry. Don't mess this up. Some truths don't come crashing through the door. Some of them just sit quietly on a bathroom counter waiting to be found. 5 months into the relationship, Kofi proposed. A 7-carat cushion-cut diamond from Tiffany's. Araba cried. Real tears. Of relief, not love. She said yes before he finished the sentence. The wedding was planned for 6 months later. Araba took full control of the arrangements. Kofi gave her a wedding budget of $200,000. She spent $310,000 and told him the vendors had increased their prices. Kofi didn't argue. He trusted her completely. His mother, Nana, did not. Something about that girl's eyes, Nana told Kofi during Sunday dinner at her Decatur home. She smiles with her mouth, but her eyes are always calculating, always measuring. Mama, you say that about everyone I date. Because everyone you date has been wrong. But this one, Nana paused. She stirred her palm nut soup slowly. This one is dangerous. Kofi kissed his mother's forehead and changed the subject. He loved Nana deeply, but he thought she was being overprotective. 3 weeks later, he found out she was right. It happened on a Wednesday evening. Kofi came home early from the hospital. A surgery had been canceled because the patient's blood work came back abnormal. He walked into the mansion expecting to find Araba in the living room watching her shows. The house was quiet. He walked upstairs. The bedroom was empty. The closet was open. Her gym bag was gone. He assumed she was at the gym. Then he noticed her iPad on the bathroom counter. It was unlocked. Kofi had never checked her devices, never felt the need. But the screen was glowing, and a notification had just popped up. A message from someone named D. The message read, "Did he sign the joint account papers yet?" Kofi's stomach dropped. He picked up the iPad. His hands were steady because that's who he was, a surgeon. Steady hands in a crisis. He scrolled up through the conversation. What he read over the next 40 minutes dismantled every belief he held about the woman he was about to marry. Hundreds of messages between Araba and Duran, dating back to before she even met Kofi. Messages planning the approach. Messages celebrating after the first date. Messages laughing about how easy he was. Messages discussing which accounts to target first. Messages sharing screenshots of his bank balances. Messages mapping out the divorce timeline. And photos. Photos of Araba and Duran together. In a Midtown apartment Kofi didn't know existed. So intimate photos. Recent photos. Photos taken while Kofi was in surgery saving people's lives. One message from Araba made him close his eyes. "He told me he loves me again today. I almost laughed in his face. 3 more months, baby. 3 more months, and we're free." Kofi set the iPad down exactly where he found it. He walked downstairs. He sat in his study. And he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He didn't break anything. He called his sister Afua. "I need you to come to the house, tonight. Don't tell Mama." Afua heard something in his voice she had never heard before, a stillness that scared her. "I'm on my way. If you think Kofi is about to cancel this wedding, you don't know Kofi. Subscribe and hit that bell. Because what he does next is something no one in that ballroom will ever forget." Most men would have walked away. Kofi sat down and built a trap so precise it could have been surgery. Afua arrived at the mansion at 9:30 that night. She found Kofi sitting in his study with a glass of water untouched on his desk. His face was calm. His eyes were not. He handed her the iPad without a word. Afua read for 20 minutes. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock to fury. By the time she finished, her hands were trembling. "I'm calling the police," she said. "No." "Kofi, she's planning to rob you." "I know what she's planning. I've read every message. I know the timeline. I know the man. I know the apartment. I know everything." Afua stared at her brother. "Then what do you want to do?" Kofi looked at her with an expression she would never forget. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was something colder, something surgical. "I want her to walk all the way to the altar. I want her to say, 'I do' in front of everyone she knows. I want her to feel like she won. And then I want to show every person in that room exactly who she is." Afua sat down slowly. "You want to go through with the wedding? Every detail, every flower, every champagne toast. I want it to be the most beautiful wedding Atlanta has ever seen. And I want the reception to be the last public moment of her life as she knows it." Afua was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke, not as his sister, as his attorney. "If we're doing this, we need to do it right. No legal exposure for you. No defamation claims she can file. Everything we present has to be factual and documented. Evidence she can't deny. That's why I called you." Over the next 3 months, Kofi and Afua built their case with the precision of a surgical operation. Step 1. Kofi hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, the investigator had confirmed everything. Darren Blake, the Midtown apartment on 14th Street. Araba's visits, 3 to 4 times a week, always while Kofi was at the hospital. Photographs, video, timestamps. Step 2. Afua quietly moved Kofi's major assets into protected trusts. The mansion was placed in an irrevocable trust under Nana's name. The practice's finances were restructured. Investment accounts were transferred. By the time Araba signed the joint account papers, which Kofi allowed her to do, the account held exactly $11,000. She thought she had access to millions. She had access to pocket change. Step 3. Kofi had the iPad messages forensically preserved by a digital evidence firm. Screenshots verified. Metadata authenticated. Chain of custody documented. Afua wanted everything courtroom ready, even though they never planned to go to court. Step 4. The presentation. Kofi personally compiled the slideshow that would play at the reception. Text messages, photos from the investigator, screenshots of conversations between Araba and Deron, audio recordings that the investigator had captured of Araba entering and leaving the Midtown apartment. He organized it chronologically, like a story. Beginning, middle, and the end that Araba never saw coming. Step 5. Kwesi. Kofi told his best man everything. Kwesi wanted to confront Araba immediately. Kofi stopped him. I need you to stand next to me at that altar and smile. I need you to give the toast. And I need you to introduce the presentation like it's a love story. Can you do that? Kwesi looked at his best friend for a long time. You're the coldest person I've ever met. I'm a surgeon. I cut with precision. I don't hack. The wedding preparations continued. Araba noticed nothing different about Kofi. He was attentive, loving, present. He complimented her dress choices. He approved the menu. He slow danced with her in the kitchen one night and told her she was the best thing that ever happened to him. Araba reported back to Deron that night. He's completely in the dark. This man is in love with a ghost lol. Deron replied, 3 more weeks. Stay focused. Araba had no idea she was the one who needed to stay focused. Because while she was planning her exit, Kofi was building hers. She walked down that aisle like she was walking into a vault. She was walking into a courtroom. June 14th. The day arrived warm and golden. The St. Regis Atlanta had been transformed. The ceremony was held in the outdoor garden. White chairs lined in perfect rows. An arch covered in white roses and greenery framed the altar. Sunlight filtered through old oak trees draped in string lights. 400 guests filled every seat. Business leaders, surgeons, society figures. Araba's friends from college. Kofi's family from Ghana and across the United States. Pastor Ajay stood at the front in his white and gold vestments. Nana sat in the front row. She wore a traditional kente cloth draped over one shoulder. Her face was composed, but her eyes were sharp. Kofi had told her everything 2 weeks ago. She had cried. Then she had stopped crying. Then she had looked at her son and said one sentence. Finish it. The music started. Pachelbel's canon in D. The doors opened. Araba appeared. She was breathtaking. Her Vera Wang gown flowed behind her like water. Her veil was cathedral length. Her bouquet was white peonies and garden roses. She walked slowly, gracefully. Every step measured. Every smile aimed at the guests like a spotlight. She reached the altar and took Kofi's hands. His hands were warm, steady, surgeon's hands. Pastor Ajay began the ceremony. He spoke about love, about covenant, about two becoming one. Araba listened with practiced emotion. She dabbed at her eyes once with a lace handkerchief. Do you, Araba Owusu, take Kofi Mensah to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Her voice was clear, confident, musical. Do you, Kofi Mensah, take Araba Owusu to be your lawfully wedded wife? Kofi paused. Just one beat longer than expected. Araba's eyes flickered. I do. Pastor Ajay smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Kofi kissed her softly. The crowd erupted in applause, and Araba Owusu officially became Mrs. Mensah. For about 2 hours, the champagne was flowing. The music was perfect. and Araba had no idea she was 45 minutes away from the end of her life as she knew it. The grand ballroom of the St. Regis was a masterpiece. Crystal chandeliers, gold-rimmed plates, white linen tablecloths, centerpieces of white roses and eucalyptus. The 12-piece orchestra shifted between jazz standards and Afro-beat arrangements. Dinner was served: filet mignon, lobster tail, jollof rice prepared by a private chef Nana had personally selected. Guests ate and laughed and toasted and danced. Araba was in her element. She floated between tables, hugging guests and accepting compliments. She posed for photos. She clinked glasses with strangers. She looked like the happiest woman alive. Under the table, her phone buzzed. A text from Daron. "How's my wife doing at her fake wedding?" Araba smiled and typed back quickly. "Your wife is doing amazing, baby. 2 more months and we start transfers. I love you." She slid her phone back into the small clutch, tucked beside her chair. Kofi watched her from across the table. He saw her check the phone. He saw the smile, and he knew exactly who she was texting. He checked his watch. 8:45, 15 minutes. The orchestra finished their set. The room settled into comfortable conversation. Dessert was being served. A 5-tier cake with gold leaf and white chocolate. Then Kwesi stood up. He tapped his glass. The room quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just a moment." 400 faces turned toward the best man. As I mentioned earlier, Kofi has prepared something special for his beautiful bride. A presentation. He wanted to tell their love story in his own way. Kwesi smiled at the crowd. "So, if we could dim the lights, let's all sit back and enjoy." Araba clapped her hands together and turned to Kofi with wide, excited eyes. "Baby, I can't believe you did this." Kofi looked at her. His face was tender. "You deserve it," he said. The lights dimmed. The screen lowered. The projector hummed to life. The first slide appeared. A photo of Kofi and Araba at the charity gala where they met. Beautiful. Romantic. The crowd made a soft, approving sound. The second slide. Their first date at Marcel. Araba in that emerald dress. The crowd smiled. The third slide. A walk in Piedmont Park. Araba laughing. Kofi holding her hand. Warm golden light. Araba was beaming. The fourth slide. A text message. Araba's smile held for about 2 seconds. Then her brain registered what she was reading. Her own words. On a screen. In front of 400 people. "Baby, I can't wait for this to be over. 6 more months, and I'll have access to everything. Then it's me and you forever." He's so stupid he doesn't even check his own accounts, lol. The room went dead silent. Araba's hand moved to her mouth. The 5th slide. Another message. "He told me he loves me again today." I almost laughed in his face. 3 more months, baby. 3 more months, and we're free. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. The 6th slide. A surveillance photo. Araba entering the Midtown apartment building. Timestamp visible. A date when she told Kofi she was at a spa retreat. The 7th slide. Another photo. Araba and Daron sitting together at a restaurant in Midtown. His arm around her head on his shoulder. Laughing. Araba stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. Her face had lost all color beneath her makeup. Kofi, stop this. Stop it right now." Kofi didn't move. The 8th slide. A screenshot of Araba sending Daron a photo of Kofi's bank statement. $14.2 million. With a caption, "Almost there, baby. Almost there." A woman at table 6 covered her mouth. A man at table 12 shook his head slowly. Nana sat perfectly still in the front row. Her eyes never left Araba's face. "Turn it off!" Araba screamed. She lunged toward the laptop connected to the projector. Afua stepped forward from the side of the room. Calm, professional. She stood between Araba and the equipment. "Sit down," Ifua said quietly. "We're not finished." Araba's chest was heaving. Her eyes were wild. She looked around the room, desperately searching for a single sympathetic face. She found none. The 9th slide. A compilation of messages between Araba and Duran planning the financial extraction. Dates, dollar amounts, see account numbers, a step-by-step blueprint of how they planned to drain Kofi's wealth. The 10th slide, the final one. A photo of the joint bank account Araba had fought so hard to get access to. Balance, $11,000. Kofi stood up slowly. The room was so quiet, you could hear the ice settling in water glasses. He straightened his jacket. He looked at Araba. And for the first time that evening, he let her see his real face. No warmth, no tenderness, no love. Just the calm precision of a man who had cut out a disease and was examining what remained. "I knew for 3 months," he said. His voice carried across the silent ballroom without a microphone. "I read every message. I saw every photo. I know about Darren. I know about the apartment on 14th Street. I know about the plan to take my money and disappear." Araba's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the table. "I let you walk down that aisle today because I wanted you to feel what you thought victory felt like. I wanted you to taste it. And I wanted every person in this room to see exactly who you are." Tears streamed down Araba's face. Not tears of sadness, tears of exposure. The kind that come when every mask falls at once and there's nothing left to hide behind. "The accounts you have access to hold $11,000. My assets have been in protected trusts for 2 months. The prenup you signed, the one you didn't bother reading because you assumed you'd bypass it in divorce court, is ironclad. My sister wrote it." Ifua gave a small nod from where she stood. "You will leave this marriage with exactly what you brought into it. Nothing." The room erupted in murmurs. Someone at table 4 said, "Oh my God," loud enough for everyone to hear. Araba sank into her chair. Her gown pooled around her like a white surrender flag. Her veil had slipped off. Her carefully styled hair was falling around her face. She whispered, "Kofi, please. I can explain." "There's nothing to explain. The messages explained everything." He turned to the guests. "I apologize for the disruption to your evening. Please, enjoy the food. Enjoy the music. The bar will remain open for the rest of the night. This is still a celebration." He paused. "Just not the one she planned." The ballroom emptied. Araba's world collapsed. And 300 miles away, Darren Blake was about to learn that he was next. Araba didn't leave the ballroom on her own. 2 of her bridesmaids, women who had stood beside her at the altar 2 hours earlier, helped her to a side room. Neither of them spoke to her. One of them was crying. Not for Araba. For the embarrassment of having been associated with her. Within 20 minutes, the grand ballroom of the St. Regis had transformed from a wedding reception into something else entirely. Guests clustered in groups, speaking in hushed voices. Some shook Kofi's hand. Some hugged Nana. Some simply left quietly. One of Araba's college friends approached Kofi near the bar. "Did you have to do it like that? In front of everyone?" Kofi looked at her. "She was going to steal $14 million from me in front of everyone. I just showed them who she is." The friend opened her mouth, then closed it, then walked away. Nana found her son standing alone on the terrace outside the ballroom. The Atlanta skyline glittered behind him. His bow tie was loosened. His hands were in his pockets. "How do you feel?" Nana asked. Kofi was quiet for a long time. "Empty," he said. Nana put her arm through his. "Empty is better than robbed. Empty heals. Robbed leaves scars. She never loved me, Mama. Not for 1 second. I know. You tried to tell me. And you didn't listen. But you're my son. I wasn't going to let you learn the lesson alone. They stood together in silence. The orchestra was still playing inside, a slow, high-life melody that reminded Kofi of his father's records. His father, who had died when Kofi was 19. His father, who had taught him that real strength isn't in the fist, it's in the patience. Meanwhile, Araba was in the side room trying to call Daron. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. The call went to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. She texted him. They know everything. Kofi showed the messages at the reception. Call me now. Darren didn't call, because 3 hours earlier, Daron Blake had received a FedEx envelope at his apartment. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a letter from the law offices of Tago and Associates. The letter informed him that his involvement in a scheme to defraud Dr. Kofi Mensah had been documented and preserved. That evidence of his participation had been provided to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office for review, and that any attempt to contact Dr. Mensah, his family, or his assets would result in immediate pursuit of criminal charges, including conspiracy to commit fraud and theft by deception. The letter was signed by Ifua Tago, Esquire. Darren read it twice. Then he packed a bag. Then he drove to his cousin's house in Alabama. He never contacted Araba again. Not once. 6 months later, Araba was unrecognizable, and Kofi finally understood what his mother meant about paper and family. The annulment was finalized in 9 weeks. Ifua handled every document. The prenuptial agreement held. Araba challenged nothing because there was nothing to challenge. Every message, every photo, every transaction, it was all documented. Araba left the marriage with her clothes, her personal belongings, and $11,000 in a joint account that Kofi let her keep. He could have frozen it. He didn't. Let her have it, he told Ifua. It's the price of the lesson. Araba moved out of the Buckhead mansion on a Tuesday morning in July. She loaded her things into a rented U-Haul. No friends came to help. No family showed up. The bridesmaids who had stood beside her at the altar had all blocked her number. She drove to the Midtown apartment on 14th Street, the one she had shared with Daron. She expected to find him there. The apartment was empty. Daron had broken the lease. The landlord told her she owed 2 months of back rent. She called Daron again. The number was disconnected. The man she had betrayed Kofi for, the man she had built her entire scheme around, had vanished the moment things got difficult. She had chosen a coward over a king, and the coward had done exactly what cowards do. He ran. So over the next 6 months, Araba's life unraveled completely. Her marketing consultant business, which had largely been a front, had no real clients. Her reputation in Atlanta's social circles was destroyed. The video from the reception had leaked. Someone at the wedding had recorded the entire presentation on their phone and posted it online. It went viral. 3 million views in 2 weeks. Comment sections flooded with one word over and over: karma. Araba changed her phone number, deleted her social media, moved to a small apartment in College Park, a far cry from the Buckhead mansion she had strutted through like she owned it. She got a job as a receptionist at a dental office, minimum wage, no benefits. She sat behind a desk answering phones in the same city where she had once hosted dinner parties for surgeons and executives. One afternoon, a patient in the waiting room recognized her. "Aren't you the woman from that wedding video?" Araba looked down at her desk. "No," she said quietly. "You're thinking of someone else." But she wasn't someone else. She was exactly who Kofi showed the world she was. And the world remembered. Kofi Mensah sold the Buckhead mansion 4 months after the annulment. Too many memories. Too many rooms that echoed with a voice that was never real. He bought a smaller home in Druid Hills. 3 bedrooms, a garden Nana helped him plant, a porch where he sat on Sunday mornings, drinking coffee and reading. He went back to work. His patients noticed a change in him, a quietness, a deeper compassion, the kind that only comes from someone who has been wounded and chose healing over hatred. Kwesi asked him once over lunch, "Do you regret doing it that way? The reception, the whole thing?" Kofi thought about it. "I regret that it was necessary," he said. "I don't regret that it was effective." Would you have just walked away if she hadn't been trying to steal from you? If she was just cheating? Kofi set down his fork. If she was just cheating, I would have left quietly, heartbroken but quiet. But she wasn't just cheating. She was hunting. I was prey. And when someone is trying to devour you, you don't owe them a quiet exit. Kwesi nodded. 8 months after the annulment, Kofi's mother introduced him to someone, a woman named Serwa. She was a pediatrician from Accra who had moved to Atlanta 3 years earlier. She was quiet, kind. She wore her hair natural. She laughed easily and often. She didn't care about the mansion Kofi no longer had or the cars in his garage. On their first date, she asked him what his favorite part of surgery was. "The repair," Kofi said without hesitation. "Not the cutting, the repair. Taking something broken and making it whole again." Serwa smiled. "That's my favorite part of medicine too." Kofi looked at this woman across the table. No designer gown, no rehearsed charm, no hidden phone buzzing with someone else's messages. Just a woman with warm eyes and honest hands who loved healing as much as he did. And for the first time in a long time, Kofi Mensah felt something he thought Araba had permanently broken. Hope. Nana called him that night after the date. "How was she?" "She was real, Mama." Nana was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "You know what your father used to say. The first woman tests your patience, the second woman rewards it." Kofi smiled. His eyes were wet. "I miss him, Mama. He's watching. And tonight, I think he's smiling." Somewhere in College Park, Araba Owusu sat in a studio apartment eating takeout from a plastic container. Her Vera Wang gown hung in a garment bag in the back of her closet. She couldn't sell it. No consignment store in Atlanta would touch anything with her name attached to it. Her phone sat on the table. No messages, no calls, no Darren, no friends, no bridesmaids, no backup plan. She had played the game perfectly. Every move calculated, every smile rehearsed, every word designed to extract maximum value from a man who had offered her genuine love. And fate had responded with a lesson she would carry for the rest of her life. While you cannot build a future on someone else's destruction, you cannot harvest what you didn't plant. And you cannot outrun the truth because it doesn't chase you. It just waits, patiently, at the place you least expect it. For Araba, that place was a wedding reception. For Kofi, it was a smaller house with a garden and a woman who meant every word she said. Fate doesn't shout. Fate doesn't rush. Fate just keeps the score. And the score always settles. Kofi could have walked away quietly. But some lessons need an audience. If you believe fate always keeps the score, subscribe. Because in these stories, the proud always fall, and the humble always rise. Fate and folk tales. We'll see you in the next one.
Años exactamente, bueno, no exactamente, ¿no? Un grupo de soñadores en La Paz decidió fundar algo que trascendería generaciones. El glorioso Club Bolívar. No imaginaron que... Oye, me he esforzado al hacer el discurso. ¿Qué ponen ZZ, chat? Basta, me he esforzado, se los juro que me he esforzado, bro, basta. Por favor, me he esforzado en el discurso, respétenme un poquito, chat. Bueno, igual lo voy a leer, me la chupan, la verdad. Chat, nefastos. Son unos envidiosos, ¿saben? Son unos envidiosos. ¿En qué me quedé? No imaginaron que ese nombre se convertiría en un sinónimo de grandeza, lucha y de orgullo nacional. 101 años después, Bolívar no es solo un club. Es un sentimiento que se hereda, que se sufre y se celebra. Últimamente sufrimos mucho por Robato, ¿no? Es el latido de miles de hinchas que en cada victoria y en cada caída nunca abandonan, ¿verdad? Nomás. Porque ser celeste no es una elección, es una forma de vivir. Muy bien, qué lindo, un aplauso. Bravo, bravo. Muchachos, tremendo discurso. Buenas noches, Dieguito, ¿cómo estás? Por lo menos ponte tu chompita, pues un busito para leer el discurso. A ver, cállate, Gabo, ¿vos quieres ser baneado? Este discurso lo he hecho en mi cama, pensando en lo que es ser bolivarista, la verdad. Un aplauso, por favor, y con ayuda también del gran ChatGPT. Un aplauso para ChatGPT. Ah, ¿cuál era la finalización de un ratito? Dice, que estos 101 años sean solo el comienzo de muchas más llenos de alegría. Felicidades, Academia. Felicidades, Bolívar. ¡Bravo! Aplausos para ChatGPT, muchachos. Para vos no, dice. Buenas noches, muchachos, ¿cómo están? Gracias por estar aquí, perdón por prender tan tarde. La verdad estaba viendo mi serie, estaba viendo el regreso de Justin Bieber. Bueno, toda la tarde me vi fútbol, hasta vi el partido del Tigre. Vi el partido de River, vi el partido de Oriente, las declaraciones de Martins, tremendo lo de Martins, bebé, le tiró palo a Villegas, pero bien tirado. Huevada, en su cama lo hizo todo pajeado pensando en el... No, ¿qué dice este Arielito? Oye, ¿quiénes vamos, no? Mi sobrino de quién redacta mejor. Dile eso a ChatGPT, yo no he redactado. ¿Qué me estás molestando a mí? Felicidades. Qué basado. Pues la verdad nomás. ¿Qué quieren que les diga? A ver, ¿qué les puedo decir, muchachos? Yo no publiqué nada en mi página, la verdad no hice nada estos días. Han sido momentos difíciles. Bien triste, ¿no? Mentira. Pero no, muchachos, bueno. Quiero felicitar a todos los que son bolivaristas y hoy en día más que nunca, ¿no? Que es difícil ser bolivarista en el sentido de todo el contexto que estamos pasando con el técnico. Pero si lo ven por el otro lado también hay que sentirnos orgullosos porque hemos llegado a estos 101 años. Creo que como la institución mejor parada, tanto económicamente, futbolísticamente y dirigencialmente diría, pero no, creo que no, ahí nos falta, ¿no? Ese eslabón para poder ser una institución sólida. Y como ayer creo que lo decía Dardo Gómez en su publicación en el Cholet, que Dios mío, ¿de dónde cagan tanta plata, bebés? Más fuegos pirotécnicos que en el aniversario de La Paz, no mames. Tremendo, felicidades a los del Cholet y a ver si pasan pues algunos moneys. No mentira. Que dijo que el dirigente tiene que estar siempre al lado del hincha. Y eso es mucha verdad. Y no es por darle palo a Claure, porque él tendrá sus funciones, las cosas que tienen que hacer. Pero creo que por esa parte que estoy... Uy, ¿qué? No, todavía no va a arrancar la fiesta, Tucán, tranquilo. y por esa parte creo que está bien, ¿no? Está bien. Y bueno, se vienen unas futuras elecciones donde el principal candidato es Dardo Gómez a seguir manejando lo que es este club tan bonito que es Bolívar, ¿no? Por detrás, obviamente, yo creo que tiene que haber gente que lo asesore. Espera, ¿mi gatita se echó pipí? No, ya, más bien. Me ha asustado, chicos, la verdad, me ha asustado. Ya saben ustedes, rayada está mi gatita últimamente, ¿no? No, ¿qué dice este Eddie Pox? Y bueno, muchachos, nos espera, creo, un futuro grandioso. Yo lo dije, creo que esta es una oportunidad ya con el Stadium de una vez establecernos como un club de fútbol, pero serio, y fuera de ser autosostenible, que se proyecte a más, ¿me entiendes? No estancarnos en solo ser un club boliviano, sino ya empezar a soñar con, no sé, a ver, por ejemplo, la venta de butacas en el estadio, venta de marketing, merchandising, que se vaya ampliando más las sociedades, ¿me entienden? O sea, yo creo que si una cabeza maneja bien todo eso, creo que podemos despegar, ¿me entiendes? Y no estar ahí creando leyes de mierda con el gobierno, pidiendo perdón para que nos perdonen los impuestos, ¿no? Los gatos, ¿no? Entonces, creo que, o ser un club que está a punto de desaparecer, como Wilstermann, que desapareció de la liga, pero está a punto de desaparecer, pero absolutamente de todo el fútbol. O ser clubes que le están mangueando el auspicio a la UTV, y chupándosela al presidente de la federación por subsistir. Entonces creo que Bolívar es muy grande y tiene, creo que, trascender. Eso es lo que nos falta, trascender, dar ese pasito para trascender y lograr los objetivos que siempre hemos querido, ya sea una Copa Sudamericana o una Copa Libertadores, ¿no? Y siempre tiene que ir de la mano. Estos últimos años, creo que es la verdad, se han ido alejando a las generaciones bolivaristas, al hincha común, al hincha fanático, a todos los tipos de hinchas se han ido alejando del club por justamente el mal trabajo que se ha ido realizando estos últimos años en Bolívar. ¿Qué decía Valdivia? Creo que dijo que dejó un club autosostenible. O sea, sí, no vamos a decir que no, ¿no? Económicamente creo que se dejó un club autosostenible. A ver, Solís, no pidas Gartic. Ya les he dicho qué cosa de Gartic. Hoy día es aniversario del club. Déjame hablar a ver de mi club, Solís. Igual en el grupo de WhatsApp, no Tucán, jugaremos Gartic, no quiero dibujar huevadas, déjame, no voy a jugar Gartic, ya les he dicho, si quieren dibujar, agarren un cuadernito y empiezan a dibujar sus huevadas, no me vengan a molestar a mí con su Gartic. Saludos Reyisita, ¿cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? Gartic, temática Bolívar, no, métanse su Gartic por el poto, ya les he dicho. Y bueno muchachos, ¿en qué estaba? Es que me niego, muchachos, cada vez Gartic, basta, no quiero jugar Gartic, vayan a jugar Gartic con sus minas. Goclingo, huevadas hablas, ya, espera, ¿qué hables, Ignacio Loza, Auri? Y bueno muchachos, creo que sí, yo me quedo con eso. Este martes tenemos un partido muy importante en lo económico. Para mí, muy importante para ver qué está el club de cara a este año, porque creo que es indispensable ganarle a ese equipo. En Copa Libertadores, obviamente por los 3 puntos y más, pero pensando a futuro, creo que es muy importante que se vea buen fútbol, ¿no? Y que la gente ya esté un poquito más tranquila con el funcionamiento del equipo. Ayer contra Bebé, bueno, el día sábado contra Bebé, se jugó un buen partido, no digo que un malo partido, creo que empezaron a aparecer personas, o bueno, jugadores que no estaban apareciendo, como es el Papu Velázquez y muchos más, ¿no? Entonces, interesante. Y bueno, apareció Cauterucho, que en el partido de Libertadores no había aparecido ni de sombra. Parece que Cauterucho solo le mete goles a equipos como ABB. Y preocupa un poquito eso, ¿no? Hoy ganó el Tigre, está puntero con nosotros. Nacional Potosí también está compartiendo la punta con nosotros y muchos más que vienen bien entonándose en lo que es este torneo, ¿no? Que empezó retardísimo y creo que nos va a pesar no solo a nosotros, sino a los demás equipos que están participando en copas internacionales, ya sea Blooming el caso, ¿no? Y otros más. Mete gol equipo chicos como Dorni, pero Dorni ni jugó. ¿Qué dicen chicos? ¿Qué dicen? La era Robato es la peor de todos los tiempos, bebé, tomando en cuenta el centenario que es una vez en la vida. Sí, es la peor. De los últimos 10 años, ¿se podría decir que lo de Robato es lo peor que nos pudo pasar? A ver, piensen. Es que con lo que me dice el técnico de... A ver, ustedes pónganse a pensar, si tu técnico te dice que el objetivo era solo clasificar a Libertadores y que no estaba obligado a ser campeón, puta, ahí me la bajó mal, amigos, sinceramente, me la bajó mal. Podía aceptarle todas sus huevadas y todo, pero cuando dijo eso, es como que hizo sentir me hizo sentir un club más del montón, ¿me entiendes? Un Nacional Potosí, una Aurora, no sé, otros equipos bien X, así me hizo sentir, la verdad. Por eso yo vuelvo a repetir, yo voy a hablar de lo que veo en la cancha, y este martes, si es que Bolívar gana, se va a aplaudir, y si es que Bolívar pierde, bueno, también se va a criticar algunas cosas, y si han fallado en algunas cosas, igual vamos a criticar.